So good afternoon to all of you and a very warm welcome to this 49th Hindi series webinar on a very important topic today, that is transforming India's health care issues and challenges. Friends, this webinar is a series of webinars that started during the last year, 1 year, and it is being brought to you by Inclusive Human Resource Development Initiative, or IHRDI. Friends, we have already completed 48 webinars in the series, and this is 49th in as many Sundays. So, friends, the today's topic, if we talk about, friends, as we know that since last 1 year, we have been the entire world has been in the growth of pandemic, COVID-19, and thereafter, all countries have been exposed to some kind of issues and problems in the health sector. What to talk about the developing world, even the developed countries like the USA, the UK, and even Italy, they have faced a lot number of problems in terms of dealing with the number of deaths, the number of infections, and the world over. It's a kind of a gloom that has set up the entire space. So, friends, we thought now this is a good time to speak about this, to highlight about this, because somehow these issues have not been highlighted, especially in our countries. If we go back to the earlier times, friends, it has been documented that during the times of Indus Valley civilization, during that time also there was a kind of a public health service or a health infrastructure that was available, and it was known by the name of Arogya. And later on, it has been documented by a Chinese scholar by the name of Fa Hin that India had excellent healthcare system during that point of time. And even you go by during the ancient text talks about people like Patanjali, these sages like Charak, and all these people, and who were not only good physicians but also good surgeons. So meaning thereby, what I want to say is that even in earlier times, India was not devoid of any kind of healthcare system. Rather, they had a prevalent and a very healthy healthcare system. Though it could not be, termed as a modern system, but whatever that point of time it was available, whether with yoga or whether it was with Ayurveda, and even some kind of a Shalya Chikitsa, or that is the surgery that was also available. Now, friends, if we go back to the British times, we know that every year around 3 to 4 lakh people died because of certain reasons. Like many a times it was due to drought, it was due to famines and even plagues. Even the certain diseases like plagues, they took a toll on the lives of the people, and it was understandable also, because it was a colonial government which was there to exploit the country and not to do any kind of welfare. So when we attained independence in the year 1947, the Ministry of Health was set up, and the priority was given to the healthcare sector, even in the 5 year plans that came around. So, friends, in the year 1983, the National Health Policy came around, and it was endorsed by our Honorable Parliament, and the talk was given to universal healthcare coverage by the year 2000. So, 1983, they talked about universal healthcare coverage in another 17 years to come by 2000. Though it is a matter of record that it was not completed, and even later in 2002 they extended it. So, friends, when we are talking about the healthcare sector in India, we know our healthcare sector has both the players. That means the union government also and the state governments also. Wherein the state governments are more for rolling out the implementation plans and actually doing it, because they are the ones who are dealing with the clients or the patient at the district and the state level. Whereas the union government is there for giving up the policies, the plans, and even kind of fundings and even direction to the entire show. But overall, if you go by my dear friends, is that there's a lot of divide in the country in terms of the healthcare sector, wherein there is a divide between the urban healthcare and the rural healthcare, and also the divide exists between the poor people as well as the rich people. So there somebody said that India is a land of contrasting landscapes, wherein both exist. One could be India, other could be Bharat, wherein the best of the best infrastructure is available if you have the money, and you also have some kind of a infrastructure if you don't have, wherein the government which is in. So that is therein. So apart from the union and the state governments, the private and the public sector is also involved. So apart from the public sector, the private sector is also very much involved, rather involved to a larger extent in the healthcare system. And if you go by the statistics, today the private sector takes this owner up to the tune of more than 60% in terms of the entire health infrastructure, in view of the doctors, in view of the hospitals, in view of the paramedical staff, and the per doctor coverage also per lakh population. The private sector provides more so, but unfortunately they are more in the areas wherein they tend to get the commercial kick from their operations. And similarly, because of this simple reason, that the rural areas and the suburban areas, they have not been benefited. So friends, there are a lot many challenges which have come around, and I think because of the pandemic COVID-19, these challenges have been highlighted. These challenges were always there, but have been highlighted now. Now, if you go by what kind of challenges there are, and there could be number of challenges, including the challenge of awareness about the healthcare sector. Maybe that education and the priority to healthcare is not there. Then there is the access, wherein I already said that this access is not available. The poor, similarly for the rural urban drive, divide that has been therein. And if it is available, then what is the quality that is available? It's again a question mark.
Can't hear you, Sanjay ji. I think it's disconnected.
चड्ढा साहब ईयरफोन लगा लो. Many a times there is a voice doesn't reach the.
Or you could switch off the video and speak only through audio, because your bandwidth might be
absolutely right, sir.
Is required so that we are able to address these issues in a much better manner. Friends, when we are talking about these aspects, a national rural health mission came up in the year 2005. Then an Ayushman Bharat also came out, and the budgeting, the amount of budget, the GDP of the total amount that we are spending upon the healthcare sector, that is also very minimal. These are the various challenges which are therein, and these needs to be highlighted if we need to have a transformed kind of a health sector. Now, what is the emphasis to the primary health sector, secondary health sector, and to the tertiary health sector? These are another areas of challenges. Then I think one more challenge, that is with the GATT and the TRIPS coming about. Though we are the largest manufacturer of the bulk drugs in the world, but because of the patent issues and laws, we are not able to manufacture and give it to ourselves, which we are supplying it to others. So again, that is a big challenge therefore. So friends, to talk about all these issues, I've just given you a curtain raiser to the entire concept. We have two very eminent people who will be talking about these issues today, Dr. Dinesh Dua and Dr. Baljeet Kaur. Friends, just a brief introduction about these two illustrious people in the health sector. Dr. Dinesh Dua is presently Executive Director, Nectar Life Science Limited, which is a US $450 million company in the field of life sciences. Dr. Saab is also the past chairman of Pharma Excel, which is under Ministry of Commerce, Government of India. He is also chairman of CII Regional Committee on Life Sciences. Dr. Saab is also a past chairman of CII Chandigarh Council, and he is also a member of Executive Council of IDMA. Friends, Dr. Saab, earlier to Nectar Life Sciences, though he started with Nectar Life Sciences, there he also had a stint with Econ India Private Limited as a managing director, which is a 100% subsidiary of the US multinational Econ INC. And as regards the qualification is concerned, Dr. Saab is a MBA 1979 batch from IIM Ahmedabad. Rather, I think the precursor, because I think that was the time when technical education started and was given a push, and this was then through the Harvard Business School. And Dr. Saab has remained in certain various leadership positions in diverse industries, including the healthcare sector, the pharma sector, the consumer goods sector, and he is with multinational corporations like Burger Paint, etc. And Dr. Dua is also a member, director, and the vice president of Rotary Club, Chandigarh. So, Dr. Saab, warm welcome on this podium and platform, and very thanks to you for accepting this aspect. Uh, Friends, the second panelist of the day is Dr. Baljeet Kaur. Dr. Baljeet is presently working as Assistant Director, Department of Health and Family Welfare, Government of Punjab. She has put in more than 31 years of her services into the medical practice, and she specializes in and various areas, including practices for HIV/AIDS, and also how to eschew sex-selective practices. Dr. Baljeet is also an international and a national institutions. She is also a trainer of trainers for female surgical contraception. Dr. Baljeet Kaur has held number of important positions during her 31 years of career. She has been nodal officer of a number of state health Punjab programs, and she has a main role in implementation of Ayushman Bharat project and scheme in the state of Punjab. And she's also got a fellowship in HIV medicine from Maulana Azad Medical College, Delhi, after doing her MBBS, and she has been awarded by the national government on for various projects and activities she did. And to her credit, she has number of publications, research projects, and she's worked for the Sustainable Development Goals and IEC goals. So, friends, warm welcome to Dr. Baljeet Kaur and the two panelists, Dr. Dinesh Dua and Dr. Baljeet Kaur. And I hope the two illustrious panelists will enlighten you today on the various aspects of how healthcare is at present and where it needs to go and what needs to be done so that the gap is bridged. Not taking much time, I request Dr. Dinesh Dua to come up on the podium and to interact with you on this. So, Dr. Dua, welcome, and the podium is all yours now.
Thank you, Dr. Sanjeev Chaddha. Can you please facilitate sharing the screen?
So I think we can present from here, Dr.
Okay, so just go ahead and do that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. So good afternoon, everybody, and such a pleasure seeing some familiar faces here. My gratitude to Dr. Sanjeev Chaddha for the elaborate introduction as well as setting the context. You know, he has made my life so much easy by commenting on the current state and the challenges of Indian healthcare system. So I'm going to walk you through for the next half an hour in terms of where do we stand as far as the healthcare industry is concerned, what are our achievements, and our achievements are very many. I show you that, right? And how's it that we can take care of the challenges, and challenges are galore. I mean, there couldn't have been another time than last 18 months of COVID-19, which has exposed the inefficiencies and deficiencies of our Indian healthcare system. I mean, you all are aware of it. I don't need to reiterate in terms of lack of oxygen supplies, lack of pharmaceuticals being the pharmacy to the world, and lack of ICU beds. I mean, you name it, you've had it. So what is it that we can do to make sure that in future we are prepared? I saw a very audacious statement this morning in the newspapers by Arvind Kejriwal saying that should there be the third wave of challenge of COVID-19, he's prepared to take care of 37,000 infections a day. I mean, it's an amazing statement. And who's leading this huge challenge and who's leading the strategic intent? It's our own Vijay Devji, who was advisor to Chandigarh UT for almost around 18 months, who's now the chief secretary. I've been interacting with him, and I'll walk you through as to how Delhi, in the space of about 6 weeks, has brought down the number of cases from 30,000 to just about 421 this morning. So if you have the willingness, if you have the initiative, if you have the vision, you can take it forwards. Next slide, please. Can you go to the next slide? Yeah. So healthcare is, no, just go back, please. The first slide. You've jumped to the second slide. Okay, healthcare has become one of India's largest sectors, both in terms of the top line as well as the employment that it has generated. It's currently valued at a staggering $275 billion. Now, here when we talk about healthcare, it consists of hospitals, pharmaceuticals, my industry, CKG's industry, who's the current CII chairman for the pharmaceuticals, life sciences vertical of CII, North India. Medical devices, where we're not even scratching the surface, clinical trials, outsourcing, telemedicine. Today, you don't go to the doctor, you speak to the doctor over the phone or a video, and everything is done. Now, that's come up as a very vibrant sector of healthcare. Medical tourism, which was doing exceedingly well, but for COVID, health insurance and medical equipments. Now, it's growing at almost around 12% year on year, which is the highest in percentile terms anywhere in the world, even higher than China, right? And it strengthens the coverage, the services, the increasing expenditure, both by public, that's the government. It's a federal structure, the central government, as Sanjeev ji said, as well as the private sector and the private players. Now, Indian healthcare delivery system is categorized basically into two, and all of us know that, which is basically the public, the government, and the private. Next slide, please. So the government, the public healthcare system primarily consists of basically the primary health care, and secondary and tertiary and quaternary is looked after by the private sector, predominantly in urban areas, metros, mini metros, tier 1, tier 2 cities, whereas in rural areas, primarily it is the PHC, and of course, in certain tier 1, tier 2 and metro cities, the government does have a presence, but bare minimum when compared to the private sector. Now, India's competitive advantage lies in its large pool of 1.5 million doctors and about 5 million paramedics. India is also extremely cost competitive when compared to its peers in Asia and the Western countries. I'm sure you're aware that the cost of surgery in India is 1/10 that of US and Western Europe, where you got to wait for at least about a year before any surgery is granted to you. Here, within 3 to 4 weeks, you register, you come, you get your operation done, and you're back home. And today, as all of you are aware, there is some disturbance from Mr. Narula. Mr. Narula, kindly mute yourself. As of today, 23 crore vaccine doses have been administered through 5 million, 50 lakh sessions across the country. We may criticize the government. We may say what we say, but which country, I want to know, has done 23 crore vaccines in 5 million sessions? Nobody, including US and Europe. Because of a larger base of population, in percentile terms, it looks very low. But look at the absolute number, and this is what we must not miss out at all. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Dr. Sanjeev? Yeah. Hospital industry out of this $275 billion is about 70% of the total healthcare, and is witnessing a huge investor demand both globally as well as from domestic investors. Hospital industry is expected to reach $160 billion, staggering number by any yardstick of imagination, by 2023, 2 years from now, from a meager $62 billion in 17, growing at a CAGR, compounded average growth rate, of 16 to 17%, unparalleled in the world. Indian pharmaceutical industry, to which I and CKG and a lot of others present here today belong, is growing exponentially, is currently valued at $50 billion, $25 billion of exports and $25 billion of domestic, and it's expected to reach to $130 billion by 2030. Medical tourism is currently valued at $3 billion from $7.8 billion, and will go to $7.8 billion most likely in the current year. Now, the diagnostic industry in India is currently valued at $4 billion, and the share of the organized sector is 25% in this segment, 15% in the laboratories, and 10% in radiology. Next slide, please. The primary care industry is currently valued at $13 billion, and the share of the organized sector is practically negligible in this case. Ayushman Bharat, Sanjeev ji referred to this. It was a game changer, but unfortunately, because of COVID, it has not happened. It's taken a backseat, understandably so. But once COVID peters out, goes away, then Ayushman Bharat would be the biggest game changer anywhere in the world, with the largest capital outlay and budgetary allocation anywhere in the world. Health insurance contributes to 20% of the non-life insurance business, making it the second largest portfolio. And the gross direct premium income underwritten by health insurance grew by another very impressive 18% year on year, which will reach about $8 billion in the current year. Next, please. Next slide, please. Yeah, the healthcare market can increase threefold, mind you, ladies and gentlemen, threefold to 8.6 trillion rupees. That's $133 billion by 2022. That's next year. In the budget 2021, the allocation is about 2.5%, but it's been extremely poor. I'll show it to you in the next slide as to how poorly are we placed in terms of allocating resources. It's only 1.2% of GDP. And in the current budgetary year, it's only about 2.5%. Healthcare insurance is gaining momentum in India, and the premium, as I said, has grown by 18%. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Sharing of the screen not being possible has created a lot of trouble. It makes it very sort of inefficient. I'll just go into this thing and yeah. So the market size of the healthcare sector in terms of billions of dollars has grown to about $275 billion as of this year. And next year, we expect a quantum jump aided by the vaccines which are being produced in our country, and will reach about $372 billion. The government healthcare expenditure, as I said earlier, from 1.2 is moving on to 2.5% of the GDP. In terms of infrastructures, as I said earlier, there are close to about 1.3 million doctors as of September 2020, and the number of medical colleges reached 562. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Would you go to the next slide? Oh boy, this is frustrating. Before you get on the next slide, I'll open my presentation and walk you from there. The key trends are that the health insurance premium this year has gone up to $8 billion. There's PPP, public-private partnerships, all across, as you know very well. National Ayush Mission has been created, and Vision 2035, which is public health surveillance in India, has kicked in the right earnest. On March 17, 2021, Health Ministry e-Sanjeevani telemedicine service crossed 3 million teleconsultations since its launch, a very impressive number, enabling the patient to doctor consultation directly from the confines of their home and doctor to doctor consultation. In Feb 21, the NBCFTC, Backward Class Finance and Development Corporation, signed an MOU with Apollo MedSkills to co-fund a COVID vaccine administration, which is doing very well. In Feb 21 again, the Minister of Commerce, our boss from Excel, Shri Piyush Goyal, a dynamic minister, worked out a very significant deal with UK Secretary of State of International Trade, Elizabeth Truss, an MP, for a huge collaboration on the healthcare, which is going to go miles in terms of creating the infrastructure, both soft and the hard ones. In Feb 21 again, Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji laid the foundation stone for 2 hospitals and launched Asom Mala. So that is the kind of focus that you have practically everywhere. Again, in March 21, various states and duties started implementation of intensified mission Indradhanush 3.0, which was basically to reach the children and pregnant women to ensure that they are not left out of the schemes. Again, Parliament passed in March National Commission for Allied Healthcare Professionals Bill 2021, which aims to create a body that will regulate and maintain education and service standards for healthcare professionals. Union Budget 21, although the percentage to GDP is only 2.5%, but because of the fact that the budget outlay per se is large, the spend on health infrastructure expanded 2.37 times, 137% year on year, which is in percentile terms a substantial number. And the total healthcare sector allocation for 22 stood at $31 billion, impressive by any yardstick. The government announced $8.8 billion outlay for healthcare sector over 6 years in the budget 21-22 to strengthen the existing national health mission by developing and expanding the capacities of primary, secondary, tertiary healthcare, pharmaceuticals, healthcare systems and institutions for detecting and curing of new and emerging diseases like COVID, like mycosis, as we've currently witnessed. Again, in the budget, there have been various schemes like Mission Poshan for nutrition. Government of India has approved National Health Mission with a budget of $5.1 billion under the current budget. And Ministry of Ayush has been allocated approximately $500 million to ensure that Ayurveda also is given a significant push. So therefore, to sum it up, India is a land full of opportunities for players in the medical devices industry, in the pharmaceutical industry. The country has become one of the leading most destinations for high-end diagnostics. Healthcare sector is far more diversified and full of opportunities in every segment that you look at. And with the increase in competition, businesses are looking to explore the latest dynamics and trends which will have positive impact going forwards. Hospital industry will grow exponentially. Government of India is planning to increase public health expenditure, as I said earlier, 2.5% of the GDP. Pharmaceutical industry, which is growing at about 14% year on year, CAGR of about 13%, will continue to grow going forwards as well. And vast opportunities in R&D and everything in terms of infrastructure, both in the rural and urban areas. Now, looking at hospitals, they're classified into allopathic, Ayurvedic, homeopathic, Unanis, and others. Public hospitals and medical college hospitals, district hospitals, city, town hospitals, primary health centers in the rural and Mufassal areas, employees of the state insurance hospital. And the private hospitals basically predominantly consist of medical colleges and the hospitals attached, mission hospitals, private hospital, the like of Medanta, Fortis, and many more, Apollo, industrial worker hospitals. So India has 44,000 private hospitals, 1.18 million beds, 59,264 ICUs, and 29,000 or 30,000 ventilators. On the other hand, there are 26,000 public hospitals, government-owned, 7 lakh beds, 36,000 ICUs, 17,850 ventilators. The total private infrastructure accounts for 62% of, that's what Sanjeev ji said, that private sector owns 60% of thereabouts of the infrastructure. Where's the government? That's an issue, that's a challenge, right? And capacity of most of the public hospitals and private hospitals is the same as in states, measured according to beds to the hospital ratio, ICU to the hospital ratio, ventilator to the hospital ratio. Besides Chandigarh and Puducherry, where the private hospitals are bigger capacity than the public hospitals far outnumber the private hospitals in all the ratios that one talks about. Now, here is the crunch point. Indian healthcare spend of 1.2%, ladies and gentlemen, is the lowest in the world, with even Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Chile, Mexico, Brazil, Thailand, Malaysia, and Singapore, just to name a few, at 5 to 9% of the GDP. Developed markets of US, Europe, Japan, South Korea, South Africa are anything upwards of 10%. And even 2.5% as provided in the current year budget is just not enough. It's pittance. And therefore, we from CII, from Excel, from FOP, of which Secretary is the chairman, have been impressing upon the government to increase it to at least 5%, if not more. Now, if you make an outlay of 5% and coordinate everything effectively and properly, pandemics like COVID can easily be managed far more efficiently, far more productively. Last 18 months of COVID have laid bare the poor healthcare infrastructure, particularly in mofussil areas, tier 1, tier 2 cities, and the rural areas, which are crying for metamorphosis, which has never been witnessed before. So therefore, what is it that we need to do in order to address this issue? Now, I'm going to move away from hospitals, which I'm sure Dr. Saab, other distinguished speakers are going to take up. I'm going to talk about the pharmaceutical industry. Now, India was expected to be a 5 trillion economy in the next 2 years, but unfortunately, that's not going to happen. So give it another year, so we'll get there. How is that going to happen? Reduce import dependence, mission dependence to dominance in the API bulk pharma sector, where domestic industry, you'll be very, very shocked to know that domestic pharma industry, which is $25 billion, is 90% dependent on key starting raw materials, intermediates, and APIs, the bulk pharma. I mean, Indians are able to produce it, but they're not able to supply because they're not cost effective when compared to China. So therefore, through chemistry, through clusters, through policy reforms, the vibrant Indian pharma can definitely achieve the coveted number, as I'll show you in the next slide. Major contributor, pharmaceutical industry to Indian exports of $24 billion last year, acclaimed as pharmacy to the world by the Honorable Prime Minister, as well as various countries of the world, including US and Europe, supplying medicines to 206 out of 211 countries. Silent champion of affordable healthcare in the world, immunization programs, increasing life expectancy in developing countries. Indian domestic market, as I said earlier, is also almost the same at $25 billion. And national laboratories, public sector units gave the initial portion, then the private sector took over like never before and became extremely, extremely self-sufficient, converting the country as a pharmacy to the world. Now, what are the achievements of the Indian pharmaceutical industry? 36%, life expectancy has gone up. 100% eradication of polio through a huge collaboration where Rotary also has played a huge role, outstanding role. 95% lower treatment costs to life-threatening diseases when compared to US and Europe, like hepatitis C, blood cancer, leukemia. 2.7 million jobs created so far. $10 billion, ladies and gentlemen, given to the national exchequer in terms of foreign exchange, which is amongst the 5 topmost sectors as foreign exchange earners. Additional, that means taking out the imports, there is surplus of $10 billion, which we've contributed to the national exchequer, to the foreign exchange. 2 billion FDI has so far come in the last 3 years. 60% of global vaccine production, as you know, SII, Serum Institute of India, is the largest in the world. 90% WHO demand for measles vaccines is met by India. 40 to 70% of DPT, diphtheria, tetanus, and pertussis, and bacillus calmette-guerin, that is BCG for TB, is produced in India. 25% of the medicines consumed in UK, ladies and gentlemen, are from India. 33% of the pills and injections consumed in US are from India. 37% approximately AIDS patients are receiving treatment and medicines from India. So with the current $50 billion, even if we grow at 7 to 8%, we will reach by 2030 in a very pessimistic scenario to about 100 billion. And if we take aspirational case, which is going to be the case, we're going to be a huge industry at 120 to 130 billion dollars. Now, this is going to help us by way of a game changer in every which way you look at it. Accelerate universal healthcare, not only in India, but 206 countries of the world. We are the largest and the most reliable drug supplier in the world in the generic space. And obviously, we contribute significantly to the Indian economy. If we grow to 120 to 130 billion dollars, which I'm sure is going to happen, our share by value will move from 4.4% to 8.4%. And we are the largest volume producers. I mean, nobody produces higher number of units than India. The value is lower because of the arbitrage which sits in. Just to give you an example, one tablet of Lipitor, atorvastatin, which most of us take for our cholesterol, is, even after genericization, patent, having been over, is $1 to just 2 rupees. So 70 is to 2 rupees to 6 rupees. 6 rupees is a branded. So even if I take 6, there's 12x arbitrage which lies out there in US and Europe. There are huge opportunities in our country. patents are going to go off and we are the generic leaders of the world. Nobody can stand. Ayushman Bharat is going to be a game changer. What we lack, ladies and gentlemen, in the pharmaceutical space is the innovation. So the government, through a PLI scheme 2, which has recently had its operational guidelines released, and Secretaries worked painstakingly towards that, will spur and take the innovation forwards, because currently we're not doing nothing in innovation. We just making copycat versions, generics. And unless we get to innovation, India's problems will not be over. Now, let me just reflect for the next 5 minutes or so on what has happened in Corona. Ladies and gentlemen, almost about 8 months ago, we never had PPEs. We never had, masks or sanitizers and so on and so forth. I'm very proud to say that we are the second largest PPE manufacturers in the world in just about 60 days. I've interacted very closely with the ex-DOP Department of Pharmaceutical Secretary, Mr. Vaghela, who made it happen through Reliance and a lot of other companies in terms of creating masks, sanitizers with a lot of MSME companies, and we become net exporters of each of the things that we never had before. Now, that's the kind of strength and entrepreneurial capability of the Indian pharmaceutical sector. Now, you see, in a few months, we were not producing anything in PPEs, and now we produce 4.5 lakh PPEs every single day. It has witnessed 56 times growth. And India is, after China, India is the world's second largest PPE manufacturer in the world. Same is the case with hand sanitizers, as I said. It's a very fragmented industry. You have hundreds and hundreds of manufacturers, but the growth is stupendous. Incremental growth is by $500 million, and we're exporting it all over the world. Masks, same scenario. It's grown exponentially, and as opposed to China, we've overtaken them in terms of exports to regulated markets. Plasma therapy, we were the country which first started plasma therapy. It did succeed in so many ways, particularly in NCR, but then got dropped off. It's a little controversial, but we were the first country in the world to have done that. Remdesivir, from a no-go situation after Gilead licensed about 8 companies in India, today we are exporting almost around 15 lakh injections of Remdesivir to almost around 100 countries. So there was an issue, there was a problem when Remdesivir was not available, but in the last 1 month we've caught up and we've started not only fulfilling domestic requirement, but also started exporting. Hydroxychloroquine, anti-malaria, nobody in the world had it. We were the only ones we had it. We first supplied to domestic, and after that we supplied that to 90 odd countries, because dexamethasone and hydroxychloroquine were proven to be subsiding COVID to some extent. Now, in second wave, oxygen, the same situation. There was a big hue and cry. We had the capacity, but we could not move the cylinders from one place to another. So supply logistics issue have now been sorted out. In the last 10, 15 days, things have dramatically improved. Plants have been set up in record 2 weeks' times in various parts of the country. So that again reflects on the entrepreneurial capability of the private entrepreneurs, as well as the government and defense. Hats off to defense. So oxygen cylinder versus concentrator. Concentrator makes things available very quickly 24/7, but at times you need the cylinders. So cylinder capacity has gone up. Concentrators, as I speak, there are at least about 50 entrepreneurs who've come forward to first assemble it here in India, and then going forwards in about 6 months' time, manufacture it and start exporting from the country. Amazing story. Tocilizumab, a drug which was MRP at 40,000 was being sold in the gray market at 2 to 5 lakhs, right? Now all of that is over, because India's premier biological company, Biocon Biologics, has given a substitute as an innovation drug called itolizumab, and that's better than tocilizumab. So therefore, here's another innovation from an Indian company, from the biotech queen of the world, Mrs. Kiran Shah Majumdar, which has taken care of the problem. Vaccination programs, as you're all aware, 8 corona vaccines have already either been approved or nearing approval. 2 approved, third one on the verge of being approval, and permission has been granted to Pfizer, Moderna, and J&J without local trials. Sputnik is in, Covishield is in, Covaxin is in. There is struggle going on. But I again repeat, at the cost of repetition, that we should look at the absolute numbers and not at the percentile numbers, right? Oxford Zeneca, Covaxin, Sputnik. Sputnik is a very, very unique kind of a vaccine where the first shot is different, the second shot is different. And they have proven logically to the whole of the world, in spite of the criticism being piled on by the developed nations like US and Europe, that Sputnik is not effective. They've proven they are 92% effective with a very unique cocktail of first jab being different, second jab being different. Amazing story. So therefore, now let's come to the last part of my presentation, that in spite of the fact that we are what we are, in spite of the entrepreneurial capability, intent of the government of India, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Commerce, and all other ministries associated, where is it that we lack? We lack in a regulatory environment, and who knows it better than Secret Sahab, that we've been trying our best to impress upon creating a Ministry of Pharmaceuticals and Life Sciences so that everything can be fast-tracked. Why Pfizer, Moderna, and J&J could not gain entry earlier? Primarily because of the fact that we kept on insisting you may have approvals in US, Europe, Japan, South Korea, and 100 other countries. But unless you do local trials, which means 3 months, we will not let you in. Ultimately, under pressure of shortages and criticism all across, we will out them. So why can't we do it first time right? High quality infrastructure is lacking. Innovation hubs are not there. We have a strong talent pool anywhere in the world. So why don't we stimulate them? It's happened in Bangalore. It's happened in Pune. It's happened in Goa to some extent. But why don't we do? It's happened in our own Tri-City. You have CRIC, Chandigarh Knowledge Innovation Cluster under the dynamic leadership of ex-Vice Chancellor of Punjab University, Dr. Arun Grover. They've done a great job. So therefore, you have the issue of regulatory complications. You don't have high quality infrastructure. You have a strong talent pool, which we can't harbor. CIA is working its best to make sure we do that. Funding. The funding support comes both from the government as well as from the private sector. The private sector has been able to attract a lot of investment from VCs and PE funds, etc. But still, it's not enough. The government has to play a very major role in stimulating the innovation, and PLI2 is a step in the right direction. Adequate reward for innovation is not there. So therefore, that needs to be taken care of. So what is our suggestion? If these are the issues, challenges, then what are the solutions? The solutions are simplify regulatory environment to facilitate innovation. Ladies and gentlemen, you'll be shocked out of your wits if I told you that for starting one R&D program, you have to get 20 plus approvals from different ministries. Now, in R&D, what is the role of Ministry of Forest and Environment? And we brought it to the notice of Honorable Piyush and the Health Minister, right? Everybody says something's going to happen, but so far in the last 1 year, nothing has happened. Launch policy and scheme of incentivization of private investment. Create access and enhance the opportunity for innovative products in India. PLI2 is a step in the right direction. Accelerate momentum on funding, increasing public spend on R&D and encouraging alternate funding routes. Ramp up quality of research and collaboration between industry and academia. 95% of the innovation in the West, in US, Europe, Japan, in particular Australia, comes from academia. And milestone payments are made. And then once the product qualifies to be in the market, royalties are paid at the rate of 1 to 2%, which is nothing. So it's an amazing collaboration between industry and academia. In India, academia is not inferior to anywhere in the world, but you need to bring about an amalgam of the two. CRIC is the step in the right direction, and we should stimulate that all over the country. Enhance policies to attract top global research talent, which has been the case of late, and we should continue to promote it further. We should create innovation hubs like the ones that you have in Bangalore, Pune, NCR, and Tri-City to some extent. Reduce complexity in approval systems. Strengthen consistency and quality of review. It takes 6 months. Once you put in an application to get the approval, maybe for generics, innovation, it takes years. So all of that needs to be qualified. Dr. Somani, the current DCGI, a great luminary in the field of regulatory, has promised us to do. He's taken wonderful steps to do that, but still, that is a scratch on the surface, needs to be expedited. Increase the capacity of the regulatory body. Create a different ministry for life sciences, because you're already there on the top. In order to go further, softly through systems and hardly through the infrastructure, you need to have a separate ministry. Enhance transparency and collaboration in the approval system. Systematically implementation of the pre-submission discussion. I've been with the UK regulator, MHRA, and to US FDA several times. They call you for a discussion on pre-submission, that how you have to submit your regulatory documents. Here, there's nothing of that nature. You submit the document, wait for 6 months, and then only, if you're lucky, a call will come. And then you create a visibility on the review status. The project managers allocated to you in the US, Europe, right? They coordinate with you on a day-to-day basis and shift the burden of proof to the sponsor rather than the reviewers to create risk awareness in the process. Strengthen the patent process. Sanjeev ji, alluded to that in terms of the current patent imbroglio. I can speak on it for 24 hours, but the fact of the matter is that we have to have a strong lobby against Germany and France in particular, because US has come by your side. Japan is supporting you. Africa is anyway with India, and 40 other countries are there. Just 2 countries are making you dance around, right? They're not letting you produce vaccines which you can produce in 100 odd countries. And as soon as Corona is over, you go back and you say, look, this is our patent. It'll go for so many years, and you cannot now produce this, or you cannot, or you pay royalties and start producing it. So that everything is possible. It's just that we are not pushing it forwards effectively the way we should. Incentivize private investment in R&D. Ladies and gentlemen, we used to have 200% tax exemption about 5 years ago on R&D, which was a great, great incentive. That's been withdrawn. It's currently at 0. And therefore, the private companies are generally not interested in, creating innovative R&D. Innovative drugs used to be there during good old times, as Sanjeev ji mentioned, to the good old India during the Veda times and stuff like that. Sushrutu was the biggest surgeon in the world. It is acknowledged. You can Google it and you'll find out. Now, with that kind of legacy, we must further facilitate the promotion of R&D. Creating a new drug will cost you $3 billion, and the failure rate is 99.9%. So in order to make sure that there is incentive, the government has to give. Every government in the world, irrespective, gives you incentive on R&D, and this should be reintroduced. Further tax exemptions or angel investment to be given. Stabilizing price policies. We have a draconian, DPCO earlier, NPPA, now NELM, which does not guarantee you a reasonable rate of return. Now, if you don't do that, there'll be shortages in the market, in the country. It's happened. The government is fully aware of it. So have a transparent system where the industry and the government can sit together. We can open our books of accounts. They can have a look at it and give you a reasonable margin of 10, 12% or whatever is deemed appropriate. Provide direct grants and funding to the industry in a PLI manner. That's happened. PLI 1 has come in. PLI 2 also has been rolled out. Actively encourage the VC funding in innovation by facilitating excellent returns to the VCs. Otherwise, they'll not come to your country. Set up special reimbursement mechanisms to enhance access for locally developed innovative drugs on priority diseases, difficult diseases, orphan diseases, and so on and so forth. Incentivize healthcare infrastructure promotion so that in the next 5 years, we are in a position, if at all, God forbid, something else like Corona happens, we should be able to face it. Establish high quality infrastructure, innovation centers, global clinical trial infrastructure, ramp up public spending on the pharma innovation, as I said earlier, alternate funding options to accelerate momentum by ensuring implementation of simplified listing norms under innovation growth platform. This is something which is followed by top-notch 10 countries of the world. We unfortunately don't have that. If we have that, you will see India coming up really on top in terms of innovating drugs in every segment of life sciences industry, also in medical devices. If we import 95% of the medical devices of $11 billion, right? My sense is if the right kind of policy measures are introduced and implemented effectively and robustly, you will have exports out of this country on medical devices in the next 5 years' time. We have the potential. Prioritize 8 to 10 anchor institutes of world class, right? To make sure that they promote innovation through fantastic talent that we have available in our country. Revamp the performance management framework all across the institutions, research organization to get the results and not just publish patents and forget about it. Shift the curriculum of the institutes in life sciences to be relevant to the industry. Currently, unfortunately, 50 to 60% of the institutes have no meaning to the industry, and industry has to reinvest in the students passing out to be industry relevant. Set up dedicated technology transfer platforms to support academicians to commercialize their research, launch and scale up schemes to attract backup top Indian talent. Some of them are doing amazing amount of work out there in the West. And today, India is the right destination for them to come back, for certain. So with this, I'll just stop here. And if, in case there are any questions at the end of this deliberation, I'll be delighted to address those questions. Thank you very much for the engagement. Sorry that you've not been able to see the presentation on account of some technical glitches. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, sir, for very enlightening presentation. I really regret. I think maybe because of the slow net speed, or maybe because of Google Meet. Also, I just received a message that Google Meet is having some problems and issues of late.
We never have a problem with WebEx and
so
Zoom. Zoom we use extensively in Rotary and Subjiji is here. We never have a problem.
Yes, sir.
Dinesh, if sir, I am allowed to speak. Sir, a wonderful session, sir. And next time you're presenting, sir, don't hesitate. We can use our Zoom Connect of the Rotary.
Absolutely.
We're reaching out to society's goodwill, and we can contribute from Rotary by using the Zoom for such a wonderful presentation. Anytime, sir.
Right. Thank you so much, Gil Saab. Thanks a lot, and it's highly appreciable. Thanks a lot, sir.
Welcome, sir.
So, friends, so we'll be taking a questions a little later. So now I request the second panelist of the day, Dr. Baljeet Kaur, to take over from here and to speak about the various issues and challenges. Yeah, Dr. Saab, the podium is on.
Thank you, Dr. Sanjeev. I'm audible, I think. Is everybody?
Yeah, Doctor, please unmute yourself. Yeah.
I have unmuted. Am I?
Can't hear you.
Can't hear you, ma'am.
You can't hear me?
Doctor, you muted.
I have unmuted, sir.
Doctor, you're not audible. Kindly.
I have unmuted.
So just a second, I think ma'am is joining again.
So I hope now my voice is
Yeah.
clear.
Now you audible now. Yeah, please go ahead.
Audible? Okay. So thank you so much, Dr. Sanjeev, for giving me this opportunity. And Dr. Dua has made my work so simple by talking so much of statistics and all the good that is happening in the system. I must say he's been talking about the industry, but health is a very complex sector. It requires a network of management bodies, and just adding a couple of consultants and ministries or in the health is not the solution. It is a resource starved condition of the public hospitals. Sir has talked a lot about the public private partnerships, but I would talk about it later on or just leave it because it has a greater lobbying power. My key objective today would be to talk on certain issues that could reduce the empowerment of individuals and families on account of the medical bills. Now, you see, in the urban system, that's what Sir was talking most about. The private corporate sector is very heavy, and the industrial and the insurance industry is also very heavy. I'll come to some of the things that need a little bit of expansion on what we have talked, what Dr. Dua has talked. But our problem, like I'll be very blatant in saying that it is not centered It's completely centered around dichotomy between the reason and the politics. And all our programs, finance is driving the programs. Whereas it should have been the programs that should have been driving the financial provisioning. Here in our healthcare systems, the technocrats or the managerial people, they are the ones who decide, and the they should be deciding. See, the technocrats, the doctors who are supposed to be at the managerial level, they should be deciding, and the administrators are the ones who should be facilitating. Now, here, what is happening here is reverse. The administrators dictate his mind, and the technocrats are given to follow the SOPs. Now, sir, my objective today would be to sensitize. Our greatest challenge is one, awareness of what is available in the system, how it is going to be accessible to people, and is that going to be affordable to all of us, and so that we could come out with a health seeking behavior. That is what I was looking forward. Now, I would start my talk with reading something from from a book which is written by one of our very eminent secretaries, and saying that do we actually care in India? And it is about, this is a book, and it says that the preamble and the directive principles of India's constitution provide a direction that must underscore India's policies and governance. Under Article 38(1), the constitution refers to the Indian state as a welfare state, and in the Article 41, it exhorts the state to strive towards extending public assistance in cases of unemployment, old age, sickness, and disablement, and in other cases of undeserved want. It provides for maternity relief in Article 42. Under Article 47, it states the level of nutrition and the standard of living of the people and the improvement of the public health as amongst its primary duties. And above all, the Article 14, all citizens have an equal right to life. Now, having read this, I think, that in India, like I wanted to read another message, but Dr. Dua has made my talk a little simple in the sense that India doesn't have gatekeeping. We do have a system, and now what I would like to walk you through is the public health system, and I'll talk a little bit of the private health system also, because we talk a lot about pharmaceuticals. Now, we are familiar with very big hospitals and we are familiar with the big ones. But I want you to walk through bottom upwards in the healthcare system. Now, bottom upwards, what are we familiar with? We are familiar with going to a doctor when we are falling sick. In all the urban setups, we straight away go to a doctor. And in the rural setup, what are we expecting for a rural population, or a population that is underserved even in the urban areas to reach? And most of us think that doctor is the first contact person that the person should be reaching. Now, on 13th of November 2013, Government of India in the Constitution made a change, and Indian healthcare delivery system never had a mid-level healthcare provider. Now, here is where we have introduced a course on BSc in community health, and that person who's qualified in BSc in community health comes as a community health officer with us, and that is what is launched as the biggest part of the health care system, the first contact person for anybody who's reaching the healthcare system. The Ayushman Bharat component that Sir was talking about, Ayushman Bharat is the name given to a system which is going to take care of the primary health care, and the second component is the insurance part. Now, the insurance part for the underserved comes through the Ayushman Bharat, and of course, the people who can afford, they are going for the insurance from the private companies. Now, what does this particular person who is a community health officer do, and where is this person placed? We have a sub center which is meant for a population of 5,000 to 7,000 or sometimes even 10,000. We have a primary health center which is for 1 lakh population. We have a community health center which comprises of a couple of primary health centers put together, and we have specialists at the community health centers. We have subdivisional hospitals at the subdivisionals, which are like the district hospitals having all the specialists. We have district hospitals which have specialist care, and that comes in the secondary care. Now, our care is divided into the primary health care, the secondary health care, and the tertiary health care. The tertiary health care are the medical colleges and all other specialized hospitals in the public health system or in the private system. Now, walking through these three structures in the healthcare, let us see that what is actually there in the name of uh, processes. What are the services that are provided in the public health through these systems? Now, at the bottom, where we talk of a sub center which is meant for 5,000 population, where a community health officer is positioned. And for the information, everybody knows that in Punjab, now every sub-center has a community health officer. Now, there are what are the kind of services that government is providing? If you start from your head till your toe, you are given the minimum care, the primary care, the secondary care, and the tertiary care. If you start from conception, when you are conceived in the womb of your mother, till your death, from your birth certificate till your death certificate, you have services. And I will count the 12 components that are covered. The first component that is covered is care in pregnancy and childbirth. We are all familiar with it. I am not going to go into the details because everything is available on the website of Government of India, Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, National Health Mission, on the state websites also. So the care in pregnancy involves antenatal checkups, involves the vaccination, involves taking care of the childbirth, taking care of the nutrition, giving iron folic acid, doing regular checkups, putting up high-risk cases, giving them proper referral systems. After the childbirth, the second is the neonatal care and the infant health care. In the neonatal cares, we have NICUs, we have PICUs. For the infant health care, there are programs. And there is a program, I'll come to the programs after I complete the 12 components. We have programs for childhood, we have programs for adolescent health care services and immunization. The fourth package is the family planning care and contraceptive care, along with the reproductive health coverage. The fifth component is common communicable diseases, which a general OPD can handle for acute and minor illnesses. The sixth package is management of the communicable diseases under all the national health programs, the tuberculosis, the leprosy, all other communicable diseases. Then the seventh package, which has recently been rolled out, is the screening and management of NCDs. These are non-communicable diseases. You have hypertension, diabetes, cancer, and so many more. The eighth package is the mental health ailments. The ninth package is care of ophthalmic care, the care of ENT problems. 10th package is the basic dental health. Then you have a program in the 11th package for geriatric and palliative health care. You have for trauma, the 12th package for trauma and emergency services. Why I needed to mention all the 12 packages is sometimes we are not able to understand how much is being delivered to us. So it's necessary to enumerate. Now, when I want to put all these things into programs, we have maternal and child health program. We have program for neonatal care, and we have a program for children which is called Rashtriya Bal Swasthya Karyakram. Now, I'm going to be telling you about the programs because it's important for all my listeners here to know what is available in the system and how to go and ask for it. You know, sometimes when we are talking, we need to know that there is one point is about awareness, then the second is about accessibility. We must know that these things we can access if we reach the right place. And third is about uh, we should know that whether we can afford and how to go, where to go, since we don't have gatekeeping. Like sir had mentioned, Dr. Dua, if my friend sent me a message that somebody got a gastric problem and would get a ultrasound appointment for 8 months and would get a referral for a super specialist gastroenterologist in 2 years in 2022, and you would know that in India it takes you just one day to get an appointment with a super specialist, and on the same day you could get a second opinion too. So we don't have gatekeeping, and that is why we are abusing lot of our system, and we are not even recognizing what is there in our system. Now, when you talk of the programs under the Rashtriya Bal Swasthya Karyakram, every child till the age from 0 to 6 in the Anganwadi is checked twice a year. From 6 to 18 is checked in the school for once a year for 30 diseases, and they are managed. Referral pathways are made. Government is also ensuring surgeries like the surgeries for congenital heart diseases, for cochlear implants, for visual defects, for congenital blindness, for whatever is possible under the 30 criteria items that are given. Now, the next thing comes is when he steps 18, from 14 to adolescent age 19, there is Rashtriya Kishore Swasthya Karyakram. There are clinics for adolescent health. And in the Rashtriya Kishore Swasthya Karyakram, when you have these clinics, the students from the schools can be referred to the counselors there. You have program after the adolescent health, you have program for contraception, which I don't need to describe too much because it's one of the longest program running since 1950, and we have almost all the modern contraceptives in the basket, including emergency pill, but we do not know where to go, when to go, and where to go and get it. Communicable diseases, all of them are covered. Non-communicable are covered. Mental health program is there. There is de-addiction. And till the geriatric healthcare, we are covering all the healthcare. All the things, the aids and appliances, right from my specs. If I am a child and I have difficulty in learning, my teacher in the school can refer me to a hospital, and my hospital provides a free spectacle under a program. If I am an elderly person and I have visual defect, I can get a specs under the national program for healthcare for elderly. Similarly, if I have hearing problem, congenital deafness, till I am elderly, and from my birth certificate to the death certificate, I can get all kind of services. So this is about the physical thing. I would not talk too much about finance, but very soon I would come to that also. But when we are talking about human resource, you see, when we set up a system, like in Punjab, we set up the Punjab Health System Corporation, which was set up in 1993. Standardization was done, hospitals were standardized, the number of specialists, everything. We have IPHS standards, we have NABH standards, we have the National Quality Assurance Program, we have standards under that, quality control is maintained, and many things are happening. But what does not happen is that what we set up in 1993 and we are expecting to serve in 2021, the number of the population has increased 3 times, but our standards we somewhere forgot to revise and add more HR to it. Although we are adding this mid-level healthcare provider, and this mid-level healthcare provider at the now for the benefit of everybody, our community health officer, which is also called the mid-level healthcare provider, is going to be present in the urban area as well as rural area. Now, we need to know that is the first contact person. And the idea of giving giving these 12 packages with the community health officer is to at least reduce the burden at the secondary care and the tertiary care. Because I'll come in 1 minute as to what is the burden, that how we could solve. You could see the whole thing like a pyramid. We are so many of us, and we have so much of the primary health care which needs more attention. So when we have one community health officer for 5,000 population, and for that population we have a multi-purpose health worker male, we have a multi-purpose health worker female. Wherever the population exceeds 5,000, we add one another multi-purpose health worker, and we have a voluntary worker too. That is our ASHA. ASHA is an accredited social health activist. Now, this person most probably is the daughter-in-law of the village, because she is the one who's going to stay there. She has the information of the area, and she is working for 1,000 population. So in a village or in a population, suppose it's a bigger village, we have more than 2 ashas. If the village is 2,000 population, we have 2 ashas. If it is more than 2,000, you have 3 ashas. These are the people who know what's happening in whose house, who's getting hypertension, who's getting diabetes, who's got some problem. Now, what happens is these people did not know. Like we definitely, I would admit, for Punjab at least, while we did the 100 hospital strengthening, we discounted on our primary health care. But with the addition of emphasis on the primary health care through Ayushman Bharat, developing the health and wellness centers, which are called health and wellness centers now, we have added wellness to the health, where there are yoga sessions also. There is care for general health, mental health, because WHO definition says that we need to have a complete health. It's just not the absence of disease, and just not that I'm popping up pills or not popping up pills that makes me healthy. I have to be physically, mentally, and socially also very healthy. Now, when I talk about reorganizing the public delivery structure, sir, at the state level, you at least need 150 to 200 people, and at the district level, at least 50 more people who give technical support. We can keep coming with more and more technical things, but we need lot of support. Now, if you see the expense, you see 80 to 90% of our problems are at the primary care. When the primary care I talk of the health and wellness center and the primary health center. I had Dr. Muhammad's messages I went through before I started my presentation, and Kerala has one of the best model today. Even the health minister from Kerala, I heard her interview. She said that if I was the union health minister, this is the way I would have dealt with the pandemic. Why she is able to say that, that is what I would like to emphasize now. Every state had a beautiful system of the primary healthcare, secondary healthcare, tertiary healthcare. Somewhere down the line, what we have done is over the time, we have been going towards specialization, super specialization, and more emphasis on the tertiary care, secondary care. Everybody wants to be in the district hospital, and there is too much of political interference. And we have had a big setback on our primary health care. And that's where National Rural Health Mission came into position, and that is where National Urban Mission came, and now it is called National Health Mission. Now, what happened with other states and what best Kerala did? Kerala spent all its investment on the primary health care when the National Rural Health Mission came, and their primary health care is so strong that they were able to contact each and every person during the COVID. Now, if I take the example of COVID, COVID just needed three important things for people to know. One, that we needed to learn hand hygiene, how to wash our hands, how to use our things. We needed to learn respiratory hygiene, and we needed to learn social hygiene. I will never call it distancing, because distancing is like putting people away from each other, and we Indians are not Americans. Believe me, we just cannot copy paste the models that we get from outside, because there they deposit the loved one in the hospital, they call an ambulance, the ambulance picks up the person, and he drops the person when he is back home, all right, or bundled and packed. We are not like. We would love to have our loved ones with us. We would love to hold their hands. We cannot heal ourselves without holding the hand of our loved ones. And I'm not getting too much into it, because then the topic will get shifted. And what I wanted to say is 80 to 90% of the care is needed at the primary level. 10 to 12% care is needed at the secondary level, which is your district hospital, or at best the community health centers. And only 5 to 10% of health problems reach the tertiary care. But you know what is happening? 60% of the expense goes on 1% of the people in the tertiary healthcare. So when we don't invest in our primary healthcare, when we don't invest money, we don't invest human resource, we don't invest our energy, we don't invest our care onto the primary healthcare, we are going to lose at that 80 to 90% of population, 80 to 90% of the people, 80 to 90% of the problems that we can handle. Now, what is happening with adding the community health officer is, if I am diabetic, if I am hypertensive, I go for the first, I am first detected somewhere close to my house. I'll just conclude very fast. I'm keeping track of the time, and I would first contact the nearest contact person, get my sugar or my general examination, for which the CHO is trained, and she directs me to the primary health center or the community health center. And more important is, it's again, there is no gatekeeping. We have to develop referral pathways. If my nearest place is this one, I get connected to that particular person, I get a prescription. Now, what this CHO is going to do is regularly check me, regularly monitor my vitals, and keep giving me the drugs from there, so that the compliance is better, the health-seeking behavior is ensured, and people-friendly approaches come up. You've seen the branding of the health centers also. I'll give one more example. Now, if you take the example of an appendicectomy, because that's something which almost everybody knows. I know this August gathering has non-medical people too and engineers. Appendicectomy will cost, if you get it in a primary health center versus a tertiary health center, even in a government tertiary health center. For my appendix, if I go to a district hospital and get an appendix removed, and I go to a medical college, the cost increases about 2 to 3 times. And for the same one, if I go to a corporate hospital, it will increase to 4 to 10 times. See, the idea is of making all the district hospitals and the medical colleges, they should be free from political control. Now, why our district hospitals are not getting the doctors there? A lot of times they would say that you're not allowed to practice, and doctors, you know what they do? They also have to control themselves a little bit, that if they are working at the district hospital, they need to be committed to that particular area. Now, the public hospitals, sir was discounting lot of work which is being done in the public hospitals. 40% of all the treatments are provided in public hospitals, and the tertiary care, not more than 10% is provided in the public hospital. Now, what the government needs to aspire is to provide good primary health care. And I also feel that if Ayushman Bharat, the concept which came into Parliament in 2013 and which is implemented recently and coming to like some kind of objective and goal to be accomplished by 2022-23. If we are able to do that, we'll be able to take care of the primary health care, and we need to at least take care of 50% of the total, right, from the secondary and the tertiary healthcare to contain the cost. Now, I'll end my talk with telling you that health sector, when it is privatized, in the private sector, it is highly commercial. And there is a Huda estimate that 54% medical institutions are privatized, 75% of hospitals are privatized, 51% of the hospital beds are privatized, 70% of the dispensaries are privatized, 80% of all qualified doctors are sitting in private system. And the ownership patterns, we all know that owning a hospital is now not possible. That is also going to the corporate sector. Now, you see, even in our training system, sir, now in all the states, it is compulsory to read your mother tongue. But I'll take an example of Punjab. Punjab is an agrarian state. It is not compulsory to read agriculture in the school. If my students were reading agriculture, they would think how to improve the agriculture, and we would have lesser impoverishment, and we would have more finances, and we would have more education to work on our facilities. So we have a lot of we would need to work first of all on promoting whatever we have, then trying to prevent whatever is preventable, trying to treat whatever is treatable, reduce the disability wherever it is coming, and when the disability is formed, we have provisionings, and we should know where to get these provisionings. Now, see, if you see the whole pyramid, I would rather say that if you draw the entire pyramid like this, the tertiary care and the big corporate hospitals, they do good to a very small population. We need to work with everybody down there at the primary healthcare, and that's where we have had an issue this time in the pandemic, because when it started, we moved all the staff from the primary to the secondary and the tertiary level. Now, when we are seeing things happening in the villages, now we are rushing the staff back, and the community health officers, at least I can talk of my state, have been extensively working very hard. I'll part away with two things. Julian Hart, he refers to the phenomenon of inverse care law that relentlessly subordinates human values to pursuit of profit by providing more care and consultation time to those with the ability to pay and less to those who have a higher need. And at the end of it, I'll read a message which came to me. I belong to the forces background, and I have a friend who sent me a message just yesterday after we spoke, Dr. Sanjeev. They said that the National Defense Academy, Indian Military Academy, Officers Training Academy, Air Force Academy, Naval Academy, including the RIMC, which is a residential school, have all continued with the regular training classes and conduct of sports and games as usual, despite the COVID-19 pandemic, while all other training institutes, colleges, universities in India and across the world remain closed. It's because of military discipline and ethos. Can rest of the India also do the same by being disciplined and following COVID protocols strictly? Lockdown is required because we are indisciplined citizens. Lockdown is required because we don't have civic sense. Lockdown is required because we are careless, couldn't be bothered about others' safety and well-being, and most of us take pride in violating the laid norms and protocols. And with this, I would conclude my talk saying that I do not know whether I lived up to the expectations of your call to join this August gathering, but all those who have been lending ear to what I said, I just wanted to tell you that there is so much that is available. Please spread awareness and let people go and have a health seeking behavior, and it is only then that all the provisionings and all the industry that is put together to work will come to handy to all of us, and we could build a healthy India the way we are all otherwise supposed to be, a very healthy nation in body, mind, spirit and soul. Thank you so much for having me. I'll just check at the questions, and if I can answer any of them
Yeah.
as for what Dr. Sanjeev you want me to.
Yeah,
Thank
thank you,
you.
Dr. Baljit, and it was very enlightening presentation and in informing what the government is doing, especially at the lower levels, the primary health center level and the secondary level. So I think now the house is open for questions. We had a few questions in the chat box. So I think, yeah, Dr. Surendra Sharma has raised the hand. Yeah, Dr. Sharma, please go ahead with your question.
My question to Dr. Baljit Kaur, who happens to be medico, I do not know whether Dr. Dinesh Dua is a pharmaceutical PhD or a medico. Uh, though I have met him several
Yes,
times in CII, but my question remains to Dr. Baljit Kaur.
sure, sir.
Overall, health of the people over the years that has gone down. Obesity, diabetes, then most of the metabolic diseases, despite the so many advancements in technology, in pharma research, and this so many medical colleges, we have not failed to somewhere to focus our energy and channelize this towards guiding our children right from the infant stage towards a healthy lifestyle rather than making pushing them towards unhealthy lifestyle. Is it by default or by design?
Sir, if there is any design, then then Dr. Dua would answer that because he comes from that sector which designs most of the things. But because it would be called as a
Let us
design
not
from
put
the.
any say
No, I'll
castigation
answer.
remarks on anybody because we are
No,
talking here for information
yes, sir.
knowledge sake.
Yeah, sir, I am coming to the answer. Sir, in the COVID, like I'll just take a small example of COVID. Sir, what happened? What is COVID? Na? It's a virus which is sitting in my mouth or my nose, and it is going to come out through my mouth or my nose. And what I needed to do was to wear a mask, right? And what I needed to do was wash my hands. And what I needed to do was sneeze like this. And what I needed to do was do a social hygiene, right? Now, I'll take you back to a black and white movie. What would happen in a black and white movie was there is a gentleman who comes from outside after his work with an umbrella and some bag in his hand, and then there is a hand pump outside the house, and you wash the wife would or the lady, or she's standing with some water. He washes his hands, he washes his face, he washes his feet. Then he enters the veranda. In the veranda, he leaves his bags and other things. Then she gives a towel, he goes to take bath, and then he sits inside in the kitchen to have his food or in the dining area. Now, sir, modernization, we want to live alone, we want to have nuclear families, we want to have everything. Everything is good. But I have seen in my house when there is a guest, and I myself feel very, very embarrassed and how to handle that problem. Guy who's moving his suitcase in the airport, moving his wheel suitcase in the railway station, on the bus stand, on the street, comes and places it on the bed and opens it there to bring out the clothes. We carry everything to our bed, and then we say that we are getting sick. See, we are losing the healthy habits. But this is what I'm talking about, the north part of the country. Still, Maharashtra, south of India, they remove their shoes outside, they're cooking, their vessels are washed outside. So we have to, somewhere, COVID is teaching us to get back to our traditional and conventional values. Answering one more part of your question, we are not getting, our life expectancy has increased. So we cannot say that all the programs that government has been running have gone, we cannot rubbish them. The number of women that are dying are reduced at childbirth, and the life expectancy, people are not dying of tuberculosis, they're not dying of so many smaller things, which earlier, my grandfather was STO of PWD, and he was STO at Burma. There was one STO for entire Burma. And he died of pneumonia. Penicillin was not in it. We have longevity, we have everything, but I think personal hygiene, the holistic approach is missing. We have gone too much on to the West. I would rather put it very simple. We've taken things from the West, copy pasted without using intelligence. जैसे वो कहते हैं ना कि नकल में भी अकल चाहिए होती है. अब US and UK में भी आप जाएंगे तो उनके 2 डोर्स होते हैं. एक डोर में आप एंटर करते हैं, वहां पे अपनी छतरी जूते सब उतारते हैं, then you enter the second part of the house. But in our houses, we have to stop our children. I hope I have tried to give some hint on the question that you asked.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Dua. Would you like to supplement?
No, I would like to address this issue because I'm deeply engaged in diabetes over the last 3 decades, starting from Wockhardt, where I was the president of insulin manufacturing biotechnology unit. I'm basically a pharmacist, and then I moved over in my MBA. So, diabetes, India is the capital of the world. There are 7 crore people which are identified, as diabetic or metabolic disorders, right? You have another 7 crores who are not identified, right? Because they don't get tested, particularly in Mofussil areas or villages and what have you, right? So if you're talking about even 7 crore people, it's worse than a pandemic, right? The kind of effect it has on you, on your family, on your nears and dears is incredible. Now, if you would pick up, Doc Sahib, if you pick up the literature of each and any diabetic drug, gliptins or glimepiride or whatever, and even insulin, it's written in bold letters, this is an adjunct therapy along with regular exercise and good food habits. Now, nobody reads that, nobody. I think you hit the nail on the head, and Madam Dr. Baljeet Kaur has really, really driven it into us, that this education of healthy habits, right, may it be exercise, may it be fooding habits. You want to eat trash food in terms of all kinds and types fast food, which is available, pizzas, and I'm not against it, but moderate it. Take it once a week or thereabouts or whatever, right? It may hurt the industry, it doesn't matter. But in the schools, at home, we should regiment it that, look, you have to go for your sports, you have to go for your exercises. And then in addition to that, you have to make sure that you minimize the intake of the junk food. Look at UK, look at US. I've studied those markets so closely. Obesity, sir, is the biggest multiplier for all the metabolic disorders that they have. So if India can go back to that, and yoga can be, kind of penetrated deeply into each and every institution, may it be villages, may it be towns, may it be metros, I think we'll get over this more than a pandemic situation of diabetes and metabolic disorders.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Sahib, and you highlighted very important. Yeah, please.
I'll add one word. In the health and wellness centers that I was talking, yoga is incorporated, and there is a teacher who does once a week or twice a week sessions, and those little population from there, they are coming and they're getting. So it's like, habit formation. It takes 21 days. I would say, even if it takes a couple of years, and some of us start doing it and others, because there are some fast starters and all, but it is on the card.
Perfect, ma'am.
Right. Thank you. Okay, Dr. Sahib, in the chat box, we had various questions and queries coming up, and if we just, if I just submit them, then what I am gathering is that it's a divide between the private versus the public sector, then the rural versus the urban sector. And Dr. Baljeet has highlighted very beautifully. You also talked about the various options available and how the industry sector has grown up. My query to Dr. Dua is, Dr. Saab, we have roughly 5.5 lakh villages in this country, and roughly, the I don't know the number of the primary health centers which are therein. What has actually happened is that the commercial sector or the private sector has come up in those areas which are either this was as per your presentation also, either in bigger cities for the tertiary healthcare or for the secondary healthcare, but they have not come up for the primary healthcare sector, maybe devoid of money and all. Now, my query to you is that how the private sector can be involved into the primary health sector also. Let's say not 5.5 lakh primary health sector centers, but roughly around 2.5 lakh health centers or 2 lakh health centers which can cater to these 6 lakh villages, maybe one health center, and wherein how can public-private partnership can come up, or how can private sector come up, because government may not have the kind of funds which are required, and we have a population which is roughly around 140 crores, and it is increasing day by day. What is your take on this, Dr. Saab?
Excellent question, Dr. Sanjeev. Coming from private industry and knowing the nuances of the same, and as Dr. Baljeet very succinctly and beautifully pointed out, corporatization of the hospital space. Today there's cannibalization of more and more, super specialty clinics, and doctors are being bought out at fancy prices to create hospitals, and a whole host of other, kind of M&A activities which are happening. I do not see, frankly, this particular vital sector of the country being really, really funded to the extent that we desire. Now, one thing which strikes me, and it's a lateral thought, and I think we need to work with Niti Aayog and PMO to work on this, besides Ministry of Health. So a movement in Khera district in Gujarat started precisely on the same premise. You know that very well. The Khera Milk District Cooperative Federation, right? Amul was created, and my batchmate is the spearhead of that Amul. So I know the story very closely. And Anand Irma, I've been teaching out there. So unless and until the villages get together, government becomes a facilitator, right? And some dedicated, I can tell you, out of 100 doctors, they would definitely, ma'am, you'll agree with me, Baljeet ma'am, that 20 would be there who will have that drive in them, that I want to go and work out there in rural areas. 80% would not. They want money, 5 lakhs, 6 lakhs, 10 lakhs, whatever, right? But unless and until you bring about a revolution on the lines of cooperative management, I don't think we can address the PHC issue. This issue of a game changer in Ayushman can help to a great extent, but not to that extent. So it has to be a cooperative movement, aided and abetted by the government and facilitated by dedicated doctors like Dr. Baljeet Kaur.
That's a good word,
thank
sir.
you, Dr. Saab. Dr. Baljeet, one moment. Dr. Baljeet, before you speak out on this, my query to you is certainly this query with certain pinpointed one. Punjab has 12,000 villages. Punjab has 12,000 villages. Kerala model is available in this country. Kerala is part of our country. What has stopped Punjab for having maybe around 5,000, 6,000 primary health center, which can boast of very good infrastructure? Now you may please answer this question.
Yeah. So I'll take your question after I speak to Dr. Dinesh Dua. I'm very happy that there are Rotarians here, and I'm myself one. And I have always, I'm just a very humble member, but sir, I would not understand that for 70 years there are any number of villages in this country and any number of Rotary clubs, Lion clubs, youth clubs. Why is it not that one club adopts a village and ensures that this becomes a model village? In 70 years, we would have had all model villages. And I keep telling everybody who wants to work in the voluntary sector that kindly adopt one population. You don't want to go to a village, you adopt a slum area around you. You ensure that all types of services that are available under the government sector, they reach that individual. At the end of the day, even if 20 programs are coming from Government of India in health sector, they are coming for me. They are taking care of my eyes, my nose, my ear, my pregnancy, my delivery, my bacha, my old age, everything. So if 20 things for my health, 20 things for my sanitation, 20 things for my water supply, so we could actually take some bubbles and make examples. We have seen some, India really has some examples. Some people have done, like Amul you said, and some people have done their villages. Recently, I was going through the Kisan movement also, and I saw some Kisans have shifted from Punjab to some other area, and they've done very good in farming in that area. And that's just a humble suggestion to you and all other audience who's here, that pick up somebody. And if you can't pick up a great population, pick up your maid. If you can't pick up for a very long time, pick up for the amount of time you have. You know what I do now? Currently, my maid who's working in my house is pregnant. So I thought I raise her salary, or what I do. So I give her a glass of milk instead. Because if I give her 1,000 rupees extra, she'll go to her house and go somewhere else. But every day when she comes, after she finishes her jhadu pocha, she gets a glass of milk which is lying on the kitchen. Thanda doodh main usko bolti hu, bina chini ke pee. So that gives a different smile on her face. It's taking care of that mother. So like this, we all have to make small efforts. And I'm sure we can. Everybody has ideas. Just think out of the box and implement them. We just keep thinking and we just don't put any effort to do it in reality. And sir, about Punjab, we have 2,900 sub-centers, and we have those many health and wellness centers today. I was the one who started in the beginning, but now I have Dr. Arit Kaur, who's taking care of this particular program, and she's the director for National Health Mission also, and she's very nicely built all of them. We've put the HR in position, we are putting the processes in position, and we would put the branding in the end, because in the processes means the hypertension universal screenings are happening, diabetes screenings are happening. So once we've got all that, we develop the referral pathways. We are using the telemedicine model for the CHO to get in connection with the central. This one, we have a lot of initiatives, like we have another one like a care companion. But the point that you said, we have primary health centers. We have 298 odd, and we are upgraded all the primary health centers in India to health and wellness primary health centers. So now our primary health center would not be just a primary health center which is doing the drugs dispensing disease. It's also going to take care of health, which means yoga sessions, which means something more. And of course, nutrition and other parts are components of the health and wellness centers at the sub-center level, what we call as HWC, and the health and wellness primary health centers. So now, sir, not Punjab and Kerala, the entire India will have health and wellness primary health centers.
Right.
Do I answer
Thank you,
your
Doctor.
question?
Dr. Sanjeev, 1 minute. Dr.
Yeah,
Sanjeev,
please.
1 minute.
Yeah, please.
Let me clarify. From
Right.
Rotary, Dr. Baljit, from
Yes.
Rotary, in Rotary Club Chandigarh, where I belong to, we
Right.
have been doing what you've been saying. We have
Right.
Saketri, for example, which is totally adopted by us. And there is an all-round development in Saketri. President is also here, he'll bear me out. Earlier to that, a lot of areas in Chandigarh, which are basically slum areas, have been adopted by Rotary, and regular
Right.
project management is done. Two, we've
Right.
recently opened COVID care centers, elaborate and comprehensive. One with the help of the administration in 43, Sector 17 and Sector 32 government hospital also. So Rotary does its bit. But you're right. If all the Rotaries get together, all the Lions get together, things will undergo a metamorphosis for sure.
Yes, sir. My idea was to raise the level in Rotary, because Rotary Chandigarh is a city beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
And the beautiful ideas should keep going to the other Rotary clubs also.
True.
Yes. Thank you,
Okay.
sir.
Thank you, Dr. Sab. Dr. Sab, continuing with the points that we have made and certain queries that have come up, we can fairly conclude that this corporatization of the medical services has taken place, and the private sector is doing a good job. It is doing a good job. But again, lot of finger pointing and lot of cases also we see now in this WhatsApp world, that there are problems which are plenty in terms of gross commercialization, in terms of even removing the body parts, in terms of certain aspects which any medical professional or any medical practice may not allow. Now, my query to both of you is that how to go about it, how to go about this. Maybe, do you foresee some kind of a strong regulatory mechanism wherein, the prices can be controlled, and the government can come up, or where there could be some body, because in America, which is totally 100% private in all spheres, bearing 4 or 5, the independent regulatory agencies, that's a mechanism which they follow, and they are very strong with experts, with the laws and rules. If broken, they are very harsh on this. What's your talk on this? I mean, because the corporate sector has to grow from 60% to maybe 70-80% also in times to come, maybe. Then how can we control all this? Maybe they have efficiency, but they do not have the manavta. There's all commercialization, not with all, but with many of them. How can we go with it? Starting with Dr. Dua, and then ma'am can also come up.
I think it's a very pertinent, relevant, and contemporary question, and we've seen that in huge measure. Hospitals refusing patients, corporate private hospitals charging enormous amounts, which are unthinkable, right? Except the ones which the government has taken over and converted them into COVID centers, right? It's been a nagging issue which needs to be addressed. But my humble submission is that I completely endorse that we should have a regulatory mechanism, particularly for the private sector, but not the kind that we've witnessed in the pharmaceutical industry. Pharmaceutical life sciences industry, Sikrisa will bear me out, has evolved in a very significant manner through the enterprising spirit of the entrepreneurs. 80% of the domestic pharma industry has been initiated, envisioned, and taken forwards by promoters, not by the government. Let me tell you, it started with the government, right? IPCL is a class example, a whole host of others. Sikri Saab himself is a great promoter, right? But it flourished, and the spirit of innovation and envisioning work was enormous, right? But the government came in, interfered, intervened, and stopped the bandwagon which was continuing, all right? And whatever was available has also been withdrawn. So that's one end of the spectrum where over-regulation can kill an industry which is performing so well, $50 billion, contributing $11 billion to the foreign exchange exchequer, right? And still you have pricing issues, you have all kinds and types of issues because of the fact that there was a controversy today about non-technical IS people, with all due apologies, coming over and taking charge and doing whatever they do. If people like Dr. Baljeet are at the helm of affairs, they'll understand, appreciate, and bring about regulations which are practical, which are sensitive, and technically very relevant. So if you bring in that regulation is a must, but over-regulation is a crime. With that, I'm saying that please do bring in regulations on the line of West, modify them to suit the industry, and make sure that no malpractices is allowed. But it should facilitate further ease of doing business, as well as in being sort of relevant to the patients and making sure that further multiplier effect to the hospitalization takes place.
I have one
Thank
question.
you, sir.
Yeah, Dr. Baljeet, Dr. Baljeet, would you like to supplement Dr. Dua's comments?
Yeah, sir. Dr. Dua always, talks about industry, commercial, and I, being a doctor, I just cannot see it because we are trained compassion. We are trained to be, the sector which is not a service sector, but which is just, like we were supposed to be like gods once, but now we are treated whatever. And lovely to have you, Gautam, here. We have Navdeep Gautam, who was our consultant policy and planning for NHM, and he's also raised a question in the chat box. Sir, about the regulatory mechanisms, they are there, and clinical establishment bills have come out. Punjab has also come up with its clinical establishment bill where there will be regulation. And when we say that regulatory bodies are not there, we should just remind ourselves of PCPNDT Act. Wherever we go too wrong, see, we did not have too much of difficulty in getting a kidney transplant, but where we went offshoot, then we have a regulatory mechanism for that. And there are mechanisms in position. Good, bad, indifferent is because we are all good, bad, indifferent. So that's what I wanted to say, that regulatory mechanisms are in position. We just need to see that they are implemented. And then the industry that Dr. Dinesh talks about, the mightier has the sword, and they have the political connections, and I don't need to say anything more.
All right.
Ma'am,
Okay.
So,
ma'am,
Yeah,
I'll just wind up by
Let's
saying,
move to the next
Sanjeev ji, I'll
question.
just wind up by saying, that look,
if you allow me to say one line.
just let
Yeah,
me finish. Let me finish, Dr. Saab.
Oh, sir,
You,
sir.
you know, I represent myself as a humble human being first, and a corporate leader later, right? So I completely agree with ma'am that that we have to be humane, we have to be reasonable. My earnest wish, desire, and prayer to God is, and to, of course, the forces that we, is that we should first be humane. We should make sure these private hospitals, corporate hospitals, don't fleece you, don't kill you, right? That's my first priority. Industry can come in later, it doesn't matter.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Yeah, Dr. Sharma. Yeah, please.
Yes,
Go
sir.
ahead.
Sir, I come from a background with the service in insurance industry for about 35 years. And I have seen those times where there were only 4 companies, but as of now, there are about 75 players. But they are having a very strong regulator. Now, as of date, it will be surprising to you that there are 40,000 crore of claims on for COVID only. Whereas the premium amount is not commensurate with that. Had it not been for the regulators' pressure, the many, say, insurance companies would have denied the claims on filthy grounds. It is only with the pressure of this regulator that we are being a regulator. The rates are coming down, and better service is being provided, better choice of facilities is there. This is what I
Right.
wanted to add.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Sharma. Very nice observation. How a good regulator can do, and then better implementation is required. Yeah, and then if there is a lapse, then it needs to be taken care of also, so that it becomes an exemplary. Yeah, Dr. Saibi wanted to say something. Dr. Saibi had raised a few queries in the chat box. Yeah, Dr. Saibi, if you want, you can come on.
You
Yeah,
muted,
Dr.
Dr.
Saibi,
Saibi.
am I audible?
No.
Dr. Saibi? No,
Can you
no,
hear
I
me
think.
now?
Oh,
Yes, now we can hear
yeah,
you.
he's come.
During
Yeah,
the
Dr. Saibi is in. Yeah.
During the interaction, I have got the answer to many my queries, and there is a eminent panelist. I am satisfied with my query at the moment. But I want to congratulate you, Dr. Chaddha, and you are not telling to this distinguished audience even the work you are doing for putting the oxygen level back into the atmosphere. That is your innovative idea. Please, a little bit you tell that you are doing so much plantation drive, which will really make us easy to inhale the oxygen and
Very good. Excellent.
naturally. Please also sensitize the audience at the moment.
Thank you, Doctor. Okay, Doctor, one more thing is coming to my mind, Dr. Dua and Dr. Baljit, that somehow what we have seen during this pandemic is that we have seen people joining hands together, collaborating, collating, and coming out with various formulas, whether it was oxygen langars or whether it was temples and gurdwaras, and even all those, even NGOs doing a lot of work, volunteers doing a lot of work, which earlier we never saw. I mean, at least I never saw somehow. Now, how you can institutionalize this mechanism wherein, like we say that we have dearth of manpower, But our people, our doctors, our paramedicals and all this, they just retire at 58, 60 years. And today with the, the lifestyle and with the life, what you call, life period increasing day by day, I think we have 70, 75 years of the life expectancy is the average age.
Yes.
Now, how can they have another 10 years to devote to the society? They're willing also. Many of them are willing. I have seen, because now I have also started during this pandemic time, some work that we do. Now, how we can involve these NGOs, these people who have retired from Fauj or police or from PCMS like Dr. Baljit in another maybe 5-7 years, how can they be involved into the system? Any take on this? Just yeah.
I think, in my considered opinion, Sanjeev ji, this requires a movement. As you rightly pointed out, that during COVID, everybody suffered. Everybody has this propensity that I might get it. Yeah. So then the moment you have the psychological feeling that this guy is in trouble, tomorrow I'm going to be in trouble, the community feeling steps in big time. And you see, what has really transformed the Indian landscape, and I'm sure global too, is the WhatsApp connectivity. I have flats and condos in Gurugram. CQG is a big figure out there, public figure in Gurugram. People are checking on you every minute of the day. How's things? What's happening? Can I be of any help? Any patient, anything, they're ready to come out and volunteer their services. I stay in Delhi. In Delhi, predominantly, I have Sikh community here, almost 70%, and 30% others. The amount of sacrifice, the amount of collective help and assistance being given is out of world. When oxygen was not there, Sanjeev ji, they got 10 concentrators donated by some of us, right? And they were given free. Huge amount of medicine. There's a dispensary in our locality, in our colony, fully equipped. To doctors come. So, once you have that, as it is through Gurudwaras, you have all over the world, that. This community needs it first before anybody else, right? So that being said, if we start this movement, see, this is a trigger. COVID is a beautiful trigger. COVID has taught us everything in life that we never learned. So if we can promote this community feeling and recognize it, appreciate it at all levels. RWAs are everywhere today, resident welfare associations. So let's institutionalize it. There has to be a fulcrum agency, or preferably NGOs, who can become the nuclear facilitating agency, which can promote these, recognize them, have a kind of a flyer coming out or a publication coming out once, like in Rotary we have a weekly publication, making sure, recognizing the services people have given, giving their pictures, giving their families. I think that'll do the trick for sure.
Thank you, Dr. Yeah, Dr. Baljit, would you like to supplement what Dr. was saying? How to, because you have been such a person, who's more connected, and your connect is great, international connect.
Yeah, exactly, because Dr. Dinesh always talks of the urban thing, and I have to go back to my village. So there is you are lucky to be in the community which is so forthcoming and so helping. And I would not say that all the Sikhs are alike, although most of them carry forward some values. I will show you the other side of the coin, that I am a medical doctor and my daughter lives in my house. We are just two people in a flat of 3-bedroom with a servant quarter, and my daughter was COVID positive in Chandigarh, and somebody who lives on the first floor, I'm in a government house, is a director for agriculture, and that family stopped my kachra wala, my kam wali, everybody, saying ki somebody in their house is COVID. So there has been good, bad, indifferent, all of us together. But like the services that you said, we could continue the voluntary services. Sir, in DMC, Dr. Sanjeev, there is a langar which is going on for all the patients, attendants who sit there. So there's a Gurdwara Alamgir which gives the langar. When I was in Amritsar, the district hospital, one organization used to come with langar in the morning and give food. So these are small initiatives that people do take I mean, at their own, some people serve tea, some people do these kind of community activities, but will they sustain, and how much they will sustain will only depend on our DNA and our character sustainability.
Thank you, Dr. Baljit. Yeah, Dr. Saibi wanted to say something. You raised your hand, and then we
No,
just wind up. Yeah.
only I wanted to congratulate you for your efforts and the innovative ideas. Go ahead with that.
Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you for giving us a patient hearing. Me and
Absolutely.
Dr. Dua sir, I want to hug you.
Oh,
I have to come and hug everybody, a virtual hug, because these days hugging is banned. Thank you so
it's been a pleasure, ma'am. Absolutely a
Right.
pleasure and an
Yeah.
honor.
Thank you, Dr.
Sir,
Sanjeev.
one last point from Mr. Bhushan Bhatia. Bhatia sir, you wanted to say something last,
Yes,
and then we
yeah,
wind up.
I know it is already 2:30, around 2:30, so I should not take much time. But one practical experience which I have just experienced nearby, because my just next to my this sector, it is Pir Mashalla and Dakoli, and there are many other places where lot many construction is going on, and the particularly minimum health standards which are required to be provided to the labor, it is not there. Means number one, this is a suggestion for particularly for ma'am. If it can be practically possible, it should be there in the minimum standards while approval of the plan, that minimum standards of healthcare should also be provided. Like we are providing that there should be one community center and other things. Why not that there should be a 5-bed, 1-bed, 2-bed, depending upon the size of the this project, that it should be provided where minimum it is required that yes, 1 or 2 oxygen cylinders are there, concentrators are there, or they make arrangement for even a weekly visit of a doctor. They can make arrangement from with some hospital or private doctor. And next to that is very important, which I feel in my point of view, because I have seen it practically. When the construction is there, they make small kacha houses for the labor. But there is no arrangement for their sanitation, for clean water, for their just toilets, and they are living in very unhealthy conditions. Yes, we have given some standards for contractors that yes, your labor should put one jacket and one helmet. These two things are there. Next to that, nothing is there. Even the labor who is working at 8th, 9th floor, they are not having safety jackets also. So it is my just a suggestion. I don't know how much practical it is, that it should be an endeavor on the part of the government to take care of all these aspects also, because one building takes big building takes 2 to 3 hours years to complete. And the people who are living there, sitting there, labor, their families, they are living in very unhealthy conditions. So this I wanted to add. Yes.
Thank you, Bhatia sir.
Yeah. I'll answer in a brief while about what he said. So what happens with our system, the government, that we have given the health and wellness center that I was talking about, or a sub center, it is not demarcated by the number of people there. It is demographically demarcated. So automatically the area that comes under whichever primary health center or health and wellness center, the doctors and the paramedical staff there are taking care of them. Now you will ask me, how do we take care? Even in the pandemic, there are outreach sessions for immunization, for antenatal care. There is PMSA day. There is also outreach sessions for immunization. There are outreach sessions for health checkup, and there is staff which reaches there and comes. Of course, there are labor laws, and somebody else can be a better person to answer that what are the labor laws, whether they are followed or not. But as far as the health is concerned, we do take care of the migratory population, which falls within our demographic area, because we are just divided by the demographic things, and we take care of all the population which is transit. Even the migratory population is taken care. Like we have places where like jive chonna lagan li aande ne bande, they come They stay for a couple of months and they go back. Even they are taken care during that particular time. Some of the things which government does are not visible all time, because
Yeah,
I told you that
I appreciate for
general
that.
Absolutely.
thing,
It's not
the
that.
80-90% thing is not visible. We are only able to see the Apollos, the Max, and all the big surgeries being done, or PGI, or the big medical colleges. We are not able to see so many things that are happening bottom down there.
I
Thank
appreciate
you.
them and I agree also. But my question or my suggestion is on one different side, that government is doing everything, but the builder, but the contractor, they are not giving them proper houses to live in, because government cannot do anything for that. It is not properly matlab, ventilated, or tin sheds are there during summer in the temperature of 40 plus. They are living under tin sheds. These things are required, particularly in the building laws, that yes, that should be a minimum standard for providing them such facilities also. This
Sir,
is my question. Yes.
Sir, it is 6.5 months that मेरे भरा farmer सारे बैठे सड़कों पे. Government is not providing anything. Don't ask too much.
And when they start making something, they are brandished as terrorists, you know. I mean,
Yes.
unfortunately.
This is not the.
And their houses
I
are
think
broken.
it
Their
is
houses
not
are
a
broken.
point
They
of
are
discussion
arrested.
of this platform.
Anyway,
No,
that's a
sir,
separate
we,
subject.
It should not be.
Yeah.
Actually, okay, everything is going on, because let us keep it
I think
to
Yeah,
the
Bhatia
level.
let's keep it out of the purview. Sure.
Yeah, I think, but yes, sir, there are labor laws and all. While they go and
yes.
to have that building and all pass,
Absolutely.
everything is there in black and white. But unfortunately, in our country, the problem is not about laws and all. It is about the implementation.
Implementation.
So I think that is
Absolutely
very,
well said.
and somehow we do not respect our labor, and this is where everywhere. You see, we
Very
live
true.
in big good houses. The maids and all who are coming, just see where do they live? They live in shanties. So I
Very
think
right.
that is very much prevalent, and I think that needs to somehow raise a very valid point. But overall, it should go as such. So friends, I think we've already exceeded our brief. We have exceeded more than 30 minutes now. Just to sum it up, I'll just take one more minute. So India already during earlier times also, India had some kind of the healthcare system which was therein. Whether it was the prevalent in our documents, it was mentioned out there. After 1947, India tried to come out with a good healthcare system, but somehow over all these years it went a little wavered. But the positive part is that we got away with the eradication of certain diseases like the polio, then waterborne diseases, and then as ma'am said, more than 30 diseases are now being taken care of at the village level or the rural level. So these are the various aspects. And then the healthcare sector in the country has grown up, and today they has the potential to go up to 120 US dollar billion dollars, which will be great. And they are one of the largest providers of employment. A lot of revenue we are getting from there, in lot of foreign exchange is being got from there. India is one of the largest bulk manufacturers of various diseases, the generic drugs it is manufacturing for others. These are the positive things that have happened. But over the years, a number of challenges have come up, maybe because of the rise of population. We have a great rural-urban divide. We have a private versus the public divide. And then there are challenges like the manpower shortage, be it the doctors, paramedical staff. We have the fund shortage. The innovation has not taken place. We have just become, somebody else does the R&D innovation. We are just, become a vendor to those countries and companies. The government systems have not kept pace with whatever is required. And the pandemic situation created a kind of a threat, and along with certain opportunities also. But one more thing is that this threat is not final at all. This may be one of the threats, and whether we are moving towards biological kind of weaponry, wherein without even firing a single bullet you can win wars. It's a question mark on this aspect, and I think goes away from the purview. But I think what the medical fraternity now keeps to heed is that this may not be the final threat. This means COVID-19 is not final. Maybe we may have another many of these certain kind of viruses coming up, depending upon how the world committee goes on, how the world power shifts. Then friends, we had certain suggestions like improving infrastructure, manpower, coming out with hybrid kind of healthcare systems wherein Ayush works in certain cases, yoga, homeopathy, all these works along with allopathy. Strong regulation was mandated, more innovation, incentivization to the industry to come up, and so that there's accountability also and there's carrot and stick policy also. So friends, further, we have the tertiary sector which is taken care of. We have the secondary sector which is also taken care of. The primary sector, the kind of focus is missing. So let's say if we have, as a thumb rule, around 2.5 lakh public the public health centers in the around 6 lakh villages, be it in the private sector, be it in the public sector, or be in the triple P mode. Around 7,000 or so secondary health institutions in the tier 1, tier 2 cities, and around 700 to 1,000 tertiary institutions like PGI. If we focus on this 2.5 lakh 7,700, 2.5 lakh 7,700, anybody could do it, private, public, or public private. We'll have a wonderful infrastructure created in this country. And then maybe as per discussions, maybe NGOs can be involved in the process, maybe other people who are, civil societies can be involved in the process, and then things could be dramatic, because only government cannot do everything. This is very, very clear. Only government cannot do everything. We have to make efforts, and once we make efforts, things will be dramatic. So friends, I thank the two very eminent panelists, Dr. Dinesh Dua, Dr. Baljit Kaur, who took up time, and rather we have exceeded more than 30 minutes now. So I really thank them for this, for their time, for their talk, and then a lot of experience sharing, lot of interaction. I thank the lovely audience who come day after day. Now this is 49 session that we have already completed. And I thank the IHRDI panel, the entire team comprising of Sanya, JPS Talwar, Dr. Mohammad Sulman, Dr. Saibi, Dr. SK Sharma, who comes up with a lot of ideas, work day in day out, and then we execute it. Friends, just a small announcement that next week we'll be having our 50th of the webinar, which we'll be trying to sort of celebrate by honoring the Corona warriors who have done a bit into this entire system, whether it is kind of physical work or mental work or whatever they have done. And then maybe we'll be giving you some time to the audience also to speak out. So that will be a general session wherein, as of now, it's not fixed. We'll come out in another day or two, but wherein all the participants would get some time to talk about this aspect and how it is affected into this. So please do join us the coming Sunday, and we'll circulate to you on this. And one more thing, that the recording of this session will be available in a day or two, and whatever we do, we can send you notifications also on this. You have to just ping upon 8727857116, and I repeat, 8727857116. Just say hi. We'll add you to our broadcasting list, and then you'll be getting information about what we are doing. So friends, with these words, the session comes to an end, and thanks to all of you. Stay healthy, stay safe, help wherever you can, and enjoy in whatever circumstances we are. So thanks all. Thanks to all of you. Goodbye. Namaskar, Sat Sri Akal, and Sayonara. Thank you.